Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast. We're just days away from the start of the new season, which kicks off on Sunday with a visit to Chelsea. After a summer of discontent and upheaval, each of the lads will have their say on our prospects for the new campaign, whether we can bounce back from the disappointment of the last season and begin the process of forging a second-grade team under Jurgen Klopp. As well as looking ahead to Chelsea, we'll also discuss our transfer business thus far and whether to expect more incomings or another of the familiar long cons from the ownership. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by TLW editor Dave Usher along with Ian Brown and Dan Thomas, while the rest of the team will chime in with their predictions for the new campaign. I'm Ben, someone's going to tip us for the title. Dave, strange season this. We've entered each of the last, maybe, 5 years, expecting to be right up there and challenging for the title. But we're back to a little bit of the unknown, really. The mood among the fans is pretty downbeat, to say the least. There's a ton of unanswered questions around the team and the direction of the club as a whole. How are you feeling going into Sunday?
Not great. Not specifically about Sunday. I mean, anything could happen there. We don't really know what Chelsea are. It might be the best time to play them. Might be a bad time to play them. We'll find out on Sunday. But more so, I'm more concerned about what happens beyond that, because we've done 2 pods on new signings. We've done like a 3rd pod when Hendo and Fabinho left. I don't think any of us thought we'd be in this situation a few days to go before the season kicks off and we haven't got a number 6. I mean, that's it's negligent. I mean, it's just not acceptable. You've got Klopp talking about temporary solutions, maybe McAllister plays there, and it's like, I'm just pulling my hair out. I'm like, McAllister playing there, okay, he can do it. He's a good player, he's versatile, you could put him there and he'd do a job. But there's your midfield plan fucked straight away. The plan is we've got the 2 new lads who are going to play further forward. Well, now McAllister's not playing further forward. He's going to be playing number 6 unless they put Curtis there, which is not a good solution either. Not for Chelsea away. I mean, there's certain games where you can play Curtis in that position and he'll be fine, but you don't really want him playing there against anyone decent. So the solution that we've got for Sunday, there's no holding midfield player. How have we got to this position? I mean, all the talk about the kid from Southampton, and we keep going in with fractionally higher bids each time and keep getting told to fuck off by Southampton. It's embarrassing the way we're carrying on. But I mean, this has gone on for months. We were getting linked with that lad way before Fabinho left. It's not like this is a reaction to Fabinho going. It's okay, now we've got to go and get a holding midfielder. We were in for him way before that. We've been getting linked to him since the very start of the summer. Fabinho going makes that more important. It's more urgent for us to get it done. Not that you'd know by the way we're carrying on. But it's mind-blowing that we're going into a new season. Supposedly, this was a summer of rebuild and we've signed 2 players. And not just that, we've signed 2 players. Look who's gone. Okay, we knew certain players were going to be leaving. Ox, Keita, Milner, Bobby left. So we knew about that. We knew those players were leaving. And that's part of the reason why it was okay, so let's go and get some midfielders in, because we're losing midfielders. So we get the 2 players in, which compensates for losing Milner, Ox, Keita. And then Fabinho and Henderson go. So how are we any better off? We're actually worse off right now than we were when the season ended. We've got a worse squad now than when the season finished. Now, people might argue, well, no, because the 2 players we've signed are upgrades on anybody who left. Well, maybe so. But the squad that ended last season, you had Firmino in it, you had Henderson and Fabinho, who all played a significant number of games last season. Well, we've lost 3 players who contributed last season. Okay, you can argue about just how much Henderson and Fabinho contributed, but they played a lot of games. So you've lost them. You've lost all the backup players. And you've only signed 2 players to come in. And this is, bear in mind, this is we were told, albeit unofficially, when we pulled out of the Bellingham deal, the reasons given by all the local reporters who were all fed this from the club, we were told we can't go for Bellingham because Jurgen wants to use the money to sign 4 or 5 players. He realises what a big job it is now. We've been so poor this season. We know it's we need a big rebuild and we can't afford to just go and spend a load of money on one player. We've got to spread it around, strengthen various positions and bring in 4 or 5 players. And look where we are. We've brought in 2 players. I mean, it's just not acceptable. And even if by some miracle before the end of the window we actually go and get like another 2 or 3 players, it doesn't change the fact that they've left it this late when Klopp was wanting everything done before pre-season. So, you know, get the players adapted, get them ready for the first game. We basically written off August. If we bring those players in and they're not ready to play, we've written off the first month of the season. For what? Why did they not just do these deals earlier? Why are we still scratching around now to get these deals done? Because we could have got Lavia. We could have got him. Southampton's position's not changed. It's like 50 million. That was the start of the summer. That's what they were saying, 50 million. It's still 50 million. And we're still going in with like low ball bids that they're not accepting. Now, you can say he's not worth 50 million quid, and maybe he isn't. But that's not really the point, is it? It's like if that's the player who they want, and they're prepared to offer 46 million quid for him. If you're offering 46, why the fuck are you not just paying 50 just to get it done? Now, 4 million quid's a lot if you're doing like a deal. That's like 12 million. You know, if you've got a 4 million difference over a 12 million pound player, that's something that you're going to haggle over. But if you think he's worth 46, why would you not think he's worth 50? Just do the deal. We got 50 million quid for Fabinho and Henderson leaving. So there should be like no issue with can we afford this deal or not. We should be able to, with like, without even batting an eyelid, we should be able to go, yeah, there's your 50 million. Let's get him in before pre-season starts. Get him ready for the start of the season. And what are we doing? We're still just fucking about with like low ball offers that Southampton are just like not entertaining. It's just so frustrating. The summer has just been... the longer it's gone, the more pissed off I've got. It started off quite promising, and it's just fizzled out into absolutely nothing, and now it's just doing me head in.
Brownie, I mean, the Lavia situation could change in the next couple of days, but obviously, as Dave says, that's it's not going to be any comfort to us initially going into that Chelsea game without a recognised defensive midfielder. Presuming we do some other stuff, like, how do you feel about how things have gone so far, the players that we've signed, and how we can sort of line up against Chelsea in terms of using this new system, having Trent a little bit further forward, the new look front line, all of that kind of stuff?
Firstly, agree with everything Dave just said. I don't want to repeat a lot of it because I think we're all feeling very similar to that. One thing I will repeat though, because it needs repeating, is going into that game on the weekend without a recognised number 6. It's just unbelievable. Like, it's unbelievable. You can't do that. Like, what are we expecting to happen? Like, everything you do, the moment the season ends, when you're building up to a new one, is all about that first game. That's what we do. We always hear them talking about, we've got to be ready for that first day. And then he's sitting there talking about, we'll do something temporary and then we'll deal with that later. That's just fucking not good enough, is the first point. Now, the thing that frustrates me about it is a few weeks ago, a few of us were chatting about how we think we're going to go, and at that point I was like, I think we'll finish at least second, because I assumed we were going to go and box off a 6. I think regular listeners know what I thought about Fabinho back end of last season, and it wasn't a very popular opinion, so him actually leaving I don't have a problem with. I thought we needed to upgrade on him, especially with this new system, because we've always known that he can't really run. That's something he couldn't do. He compensated for that by being really good at reading the game, but I think the change of system really, it was the final nail in his coffin, really. He was always going to go once we changed that system, and I thought he did have to go, which I had no problem. But you can't let him go if you don't have somebody who you're going to go and get straight away. That's a massive problem for me. And I don't want to go over the old ground with Bellingham, but I'm going to go over the old ground, because we were told that we didn't get him because we couldn't afford him, basically, because we had to do this big major rebuild. Now, we went for, what, 100 million to Real Madrid?
It was 89, wasn't it? Plus
well,
whatever
I looked on Transfer Market today and it suggested 103, so that's probably all the add-ons and everything. Look at the market now. You've got Declan Rice, who's gone for 105. You've got that Caicedo, who Chelsea are haggling to try and get, and Brighton won 100 million. That's the market. That's the going rate for that kind of player. That it just is. And if you're a serious big football club, that's what you do. You go out and identify who you want to buy. You look at the market and you get the best player. But we're scratching... Now, Lavia, I actually, from what I've seen of him, I like the look of him. I think he's going to be a good player. But we're scratching around trying to look for value again, which is, to me, is just a big problem, and it sends out the wrong message, especially when you think about what we were told a couple of months back. Going to what you said, though, Chris. Like, there are positives. I mean, you can't take an awful lot from the pre-season games, I know that. But we look electric going forward in them games. We've scored a lot of goals. But then on the flip side, the concern would be around how many goals we've conceded and how we look a little bit tactically. I'm a bit concerned about the new system, because we've seen time and again, even last night in the game, we're really easy to just beat with the ball over the top. Like, we saw it, I think, in the previous game before that as well. Teams just dumping the ball into the space that Trent vacates when he goes into midfield. And concern I've got a little bit going into this season is that it could go one of two ways. So I was using that new system towards the end of last year. It could be that we've had time to adapt to it ourselves and we make little tweaks, which means that we're ready to go. But on the flip side, it could be that we've shown our hand early and everybody knows exactly what we're going to do and that they can already work on it to counter it. So the big thing for me, mate, would just be uncertainty. Like, I don't know what to expect going into it. Like, normally you've got an idea, haven't you? I remember this time last year, I had an idea that we were going to challenge and we were going to go close. I didn't think we'd quite do it. Nobody predicted the fall off that we'd
I remember having a go at you,
I know.
You said we'd be second.
Are you going to apologise for that, by the way?
Yeah, I am. I'll officially apologise for that now, because I slaughtered you for saying we were going to finish second. I was calling you a shithouse for months, wasn't I?
Yeah. But honestly, like, I can't remember the last time you went into a new season and weren't predicting we were going to win the league. That tells you everything about how the last couple of months have gone for me. And
you don't know. You don't know what I'm predicting yet. I haven't made my official predictions.
Based
I might
on
just
your,
do it to
your
spite you now.
comments. So yeah, the big word for me. I mean, you said it yourself in the start. Chris, there's been a lot of upheaval. There's a bit of discontent about. For me, it's uncertainty is the word for me. Like, I don't know what to expect. I can see good signs, which, are things to cling on to, but there's also massive question marks and things to be concerned about. So it's all going to come out in the wash.
Yeah. Dan, for me, I think this summer has sort of been quite tough because it's just been the constant bollocks that we've been subjected to, and the Hendo stuff has really taken it out of me as well. Like, I'm just looking forward to actually watching the game now, and come what may, like, it's perhaps. Do you think perhaps like not having the pressure of us going out and having to win every game from the start to be in contention for the title actually might make it a little bit more enjoyable, maybe, and watching this new team grow, the ups and downs, and just them figuring it out?
Oh, taking the pressure off is always something to. No, we'll leave that in. We'll leave that in last season. We'll leave that in last season.
That was actually quite scared me.
You're right, Chris. Expectations are a lot lower this season. No arguments, no disagreements. How low or how high they go, I think we've still got 3 weeks of the window left. We could feel differently in 3 weeks. Personally, I don't think I'll feel too different. What we've done so far, I like the players we've signed. I was at Deepdale last night, so I got to see McAllister and the lad whose name I'm not even going to pretend I can pronounce.
Go on, have a go. Have a go, Dan.
How would Don Corleone pronounce it?
Sublasi.
Sublasi.
Yeah. Come on, I can't pronounce and do an impersonation.
Call him Dom, Dan.
Yeah, Dom looked. They both looked good. I was particularly impressed with McAllister. I thought the way he dropped into space and his appreciation of space was very good. So I like what I see. I just feel that we've spent all summer being Harry the Bastard from bottom and like haggling, and Southampton want us to haggle upwards, and we're like, no, we'll still give you £1.50 for him. It's been that kind of. It's the frustration with the transfer situation, and I completely get what Dave and Brownie have just been saying. We were sold, we're not getting Bellingham because we're signing 4 or 5 players, and we've signed two very good ones, but we've had the distraction of Henderson and Fabinho, and I get why there may be some delay in the transfers, because whilst Henderson might not have been playing week in and week out this season, he would still have been playing quite a bit, and Fabinho was probably not on the menu to be sold this summer unless an extraordinary offer came in, which it did. We got our money back for a 29-year-old player who we've definitely had the best years out of. So I can understand why we might be thinking we weren't expecting to be these two lads down, but what we should have done is moved quickly with what we were going to do. As Dave's already said and as Brownie's already said, we've been chasing Lavia all summer. You know, he looks like he's got a lot of good things about him. He's very inexperienced and very raw. And should we be paying 50 million for a 29-year-old? No, I'm talking bollocks. Should we be paying 50 million for someone who has played 29 games in the Premier League? Arguably not, but as we've all said, the market has changed. Liverpool are trying to do 2019 transfers in 2023 when the market has changed. We need to change our strategy, go and get some business done. But ultimately, I think one of the things that we'll probably come on to in a bit, and I'm not singling out the director of football, but we've been taking the mickey recently, because he lives in Ibiza and he's travelling to Liverpool, and we're posting pictures of him at rave ups and how many times is he visiting the all inclusive in a week and all this kinds of stuff. What the lack of movement is for me is spilling onto the pitch. I'm not particularly excited about the start of the new season. Don't get me wrong, I do think that we've got a really tricky start. I don't think Chelsea and Newcastle away in our first 3 games is a particularly helpful start either. That's kind of dampening my enthusiasm. Chelsea's not a place we historically do too well, although Jurgen's record there is quite good, and I think I might have said this last season myself in a Chelsea podcast. The long and short of it, Chris, is it's been a weird summer. We've had a lot of upheaval, not all of it expected, and I think that's kind of caused a bit of drag on our movement in the market. But we should have been ready to go if such and such a thing goes. We should have had a succession plan, and it looks to me like we didn't. It doesn't help that the director of football is only on a 1-year contract as well. So
Dan, you know what he needs to do? He needs to go to Southampton and make them an offer they can't refuse.
Well, you stole my thunder now, Dave. There's not really a lot I can say there. And another thing that's concerning me as well, Chris, ahead of Sunday, which is kind of dampening my enthusiasm, and I shouldn't do this because we can't really control what other teams do unless we choose to sell to them, but I'm looking at Arsenal and Chelsea and Newcastle, and to an extent United. They're getting shit done. They're getting the players they want signed, although Chelsea are turning into Harry the Bastard themselves over Caicedo with Brighton. And fair play to Brighton. Brighton and Southampton have every right to get the price that they want for their players. They've signed long contracts. I've got no arguments with what they're trying to do. I know it's not something that Monty will be listening to this now, seething at Southampton, having the temerity to want 50 million for the lad that they took a punt on last summer, and they have the sell-on clause as well. I've no issues with what they're trying to do, but other teams are getting their stuff done. Arsenal have been out the Champions League for 10 years, and they've spent good money on good.
Arsenal are gambling now, Dan. I think
that's true.
Something whereby they are taking risks to do it. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong to do that, but they are taking risks, which is true. Ironic, really, because that's kind of the comments Klopp came out with not too long ago, where he said he'd like it if we would take more risks ourselves.
And of course,
I also read the other day that I think I saw it on that Sky Sports show with Carragher and Gary Neville, the panel show, that Arsenal's wage bill is like 150 million quid a year less than ours. So, they do have the ability to spend more money on transfers than us per year. With that in mind, it certainly.
Well, but that'll be an old wage bill. Think of how much we've got now.
We've got about 50 million off that, haven't we? With players who've gone.
And as well, I could take that a lot more. But when we was at our very peak of our powers, when we were winning the league in the European Cup, we weren't solidifying our status and going for the top transfers. When we won the European Cup, we signed Harvey Elliott and Adrian. Now, that's no disrespect to Harvey Elliott. It is disrespect to Adrian, who we can't stand, as we all know. But,
he just couldn't help himself.
No, I can't help it. No.
What happened to the goalkeepers' union, Dan?
I know.
My goalkeepers don't give the ball away against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League last 16 round.
How do you do it against Sony?
No comment.
Oh man! All right, fair enough. But he makes a good point, Dave. That then the frustration around not seeing us get our targets is only sort of emphasised by watching everybody that we're supposedly going to be competing with get their business done in a pretty sharpish way.
Yeah, and Spurs are just signed that centre back that we were linked with, Van der Ven. Now, whether we wanted him at any point, who knows? But we were heavily linked to him. Nothing came of it, even though we do need a left-sided centre-back. and he's ended up at Spurs. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's any good, because if he is, it's just another knock against us, isn't it? And it's going back to Lavia though, something like everyone's just going on, get it done, get him signed, pay the money. And yeah, I get that, but also like I feel like people are just overlooking like the fact that whatever Fabinho was last season, and we know he fell off a cliff and he wasn't great, for like 4 years, Fabinho was like arguably the world's best at what he did. He was a massive part in what we did. Brilliant player for us, absolutely brilliant player. How have we got to a point where we think it's okay to replace that player with a 19-year-old kid from a team that finished bottom, and he played like 20-odd games for them? Now, this is not a knock on that kid in any way, shape or form. There's every reason to think he's going to go on to become an exceptional player. He may well end up in a few years' time. He might end up at the level that Fabinho was. He might be one of the best in the world. My argument really is that we should have been signing him as well as a Fabinho replacement, because if Fabinho was staying and we were bringing in that kid to come in and play some games, learn from Fabinho, rotate the squad a bit, I like that. I like the idea of that. It makes sense. Fabinho goes, and then your solution to that is, okay, well, let's just sign that kid and just put him in.
But do we know that that's the solution? That might still be the plan. We might, exactly. So it's still plausible that the fact that
do you think still want to get. Do you think that's
I don't know.
Do?
I just don't want to lose my shit over it until August 31st, and then I'll lose my shit.
I don't think we'll sign 2 defensive midfield players.
Not. I think they see Thiago as being the one who he's going to learn from, and don't forget we've got Bacetic as well, however you say his name. Like, we're going to end up with 3 6s. I don't think it's a numbers problem necessarily there. I reckon the debate that the club had was whether to let Fabinho go or Thiago, because don't forget there was rumours about Thiago going back to Barcelona or even to Saudi as well. So I think they were comfortable with letting one go, and they've let the one go where they've made 40 million quid out of it. So it makes sense in that. I think
Thiago had no interest in going to Saudi though, did he? And Barcelona don't pay money for players.
And that's probably why they then said, right, Fabinho can go, we'll get 40 mil and we'll use Thiago as the 6 to teach the young lads.
But the thing is, if Thiago by some miracle actually stays fit for most of the season, we'll probably be all right. It's not a perfect solution because he's not the quickest. I really like Thiago. I think he's a brilliant player, and I do think he can play the 6 for us. Certain games I'd be a bit concerned about it though. For the most part, it'd be fine. But like, you're relying on him staying fit, and at no point has he ever done that. So that's the problem. And then you're rotating 2 kids, Stefan and Lavier. You're looking at them too. And I just think, I honestly think the reason why we've just kind of backed out of this rebuild is because we're in the Europa League and they've thought, we don't really need to now. I think like this 4 or 5 players and really revamp the squad, get quality in, get these new legs in the team and, move players out and just like Klopp 2.0 and all that. I think that was the plan. And then because we're in the Europa League, I just feel like they've gone, it's all right.
That makes me feel worse about it.
When those comments were made, we were nowhere near qualifying for the Champions League. It was highly likely, and we then got closer. So I don't think that's the case.
But when you read the comments though, like how it was written at the time, like all the journalists who wrote that all referenced, Liverpool may not make the Champions League. It's been a disappointing season. They weren't saying like that, they're going to be in the Europa League. I just think they were still thinking, maybe we sneak in, and if we do, we're having to play 2 games a week, high quality opposition. So you're looking at like Mo, Virgil, Trent probably playing 2 games a week, and the strain on the squad's going to become like quite intense with injuries and that. And I just think now they've maybe looked at it and gone, you know what, we'll just play our first 11 every weekend, and everybody else can just play on the Thursday night. And they probably think they don't need as many players based on that.
Why pull out of the Bellingham deal then? Because you would think rather than do the rebuild,
pulling out the
let's
Bellingham
just buy
deal,
him.
we've done this to death, but now it just looks blatantly obvious that they just knew they weren't getting him. Because everything just points to that now. That because all the reasons that were given at the time.
But he was doing selfies with Trent.
I know. All the reasons that were given at the time for why we pulled out have all been proven to be absolute bollocks. The transfer fees like 135 million. Nope. So it wasn't that. Oh, well, we need the money to buy 4 or 5 players. Well, nope, it's not that either. So what is it? What's the reason?
It might be, though, because there's still 3 weeks left to go in the window. So
It's not going to be. And the other reason as well that was given was we don't want to wait around. We want to get our deals done early, and we can't afford to hang around all summer waiting on Jude Bellingham and miss out on the players we want. These are the reasons that were given. And it's not like press bullshit either, because the lads who wrote it all wrote it at the same time. They were all clearly speaking to whoever the contact is at the club that gave them it. That line came from the club, and everything that they wrote at the time has been proved to be absolute bollocks, the reasons why we didn't go for Bellingham. So we haven't gone for Bellingham either because they knew he was going to Real Madrid, or because they looked at the wages and thought, we can't pay those wages. Why they didn't just say that at the time instead of coming out with all of this other bollocks about 4 or 5 players, don't want to wait until late in the window, we want to get everything done early. It's laughable when you look back on it now. You look at what was written. Terry posted in the chat the other day Andy Hunter's piece in The Guardian at the time, and just reading back through it now, it's fucking jarring. You read it and you're like, oh my God, this is what they were telling us at the time, and look at how it's played out.
Major rebuild.
Oh, there's all sorts in it. It's like major rebuild was one of them. Dortmund won 135 million plus add-ons. That was in there. Overhaul of the squad. The club's hierarchy believes their resources should be spread elsewhere. Well, spread where? We've signed 2 midfield players instead of 1. That's basically it.
And got loads of wages
Instead of signing Bellingham, we've signed McAllister and Szoboszlai. And this was the other bit as well. I've got it here because I took some notes, because this just needs to be read out.
First time for everything.
I know, yeah. This is how pissed off I am. I've actually taken notes. Klopp has told the club's owners, Fenway Sports Group, to move swiftly on transfer deals, having lost out to Real Madrid in pursuit of the midfielder Aurelien Tchouameni. I think I've got that right. Quite pleased with myself there. A drawn-out battle for Bellingham's signature would increase the risk of other targets moving elsewhere, and Liverpool accept they cannot afford to miss out on several alternative options. And some of those options were Mason Mount,
the names they were given
Birch,
and fed with a load of balls as well, weren't they, when you look back at it?
Gravenberch was still getting linked to them even now after all this time. After we walked away from that, now he's another one who we're getting linked with. Then there was looked like we were getting Kone and Thuram at one point, then nothing came of that. Van der Ven. I just don't know what's going on.
It's a shit show.
It really is
a shit show.
Really is.
I think that's what makes it difficult, in the fact that we just don't know, right? We don't have that insight into what their thinking is, and you kind of desperately want that, Dan, in order to be able to plausibly understand it and see where they're coming from. You want that insight that we just don't have.
Yeah, and it does feel like whatever the plan was changed, and the plan has not altered since. It's okay, we've sold Fabinho and Henderson, now what do we do? And it's jarring. It's in complete disarray compared to where we were certainly 2 years ago. If we'd had this kind of Saudi sports washing a couple of years ago, it would have been sorted. Michael Edwards would have gotten the target sorted, and the deals would have been done. Click, click, done. No arguing, no messing. And I don't want to point the finger at either the sporting director or Jurgen, but Jurgen's got more control now, and it feels very strange to me that we had this all singing, all dancing Bellingham deal, which I as you all know, I didn't for one second think we were signing Jude Bellingham, because I don't think that the owners want to pay the level of transfer fee or wages that it would have taken, and I would maintain that with any player. Even if they had the chance to sign Mbappe, I don't think they would, because he just doesn't fit the profile.
That's fine, but if that is the case, and I'm not saying it's not the case, but if it is, we wasted 12 months.
Absolutely.
And that's who's that on? Whose fault is that then? Wasting 12 months on a player who we were never going to go for.
Well, is it a combination of people? Is it
collective? It's all of them.
You can't blame the director of football, because he wasn't in position. But you've got to look at Jurgen and the owners, and it just feels to me like there's a lot of scratching on the heads. It feels like a Kevin Keegan bench. He just needs Kevin Keegan stood with his arms folded at the front of all this mess, looking very confused at what's going on, because that's how I feel. A club that has had such a clear and confident and bold strategy for about 7 years has really, really regressed this summer. I think we missed a trick last summer by not signing a midfielder, and if Dortmund didn't want to sell Bellingham, then there's not a lot you can do about that. That's the way the German clubs work, one in, one out.
And we missed out on that Tchouaméni thing as well.
Yeah, we can't do anything about that. If Real Madrid come knocking, you're generally missing out because it's Real Madrid. As infuriating as that is, that's just the way it is, and we all accept that as football fans. It shouldn't be the way it is, but it is. And Schmadtke, pronunciation pending.
Good,
he probably regrets going there because it's not worked out for him too well. And I would be interested in taking a look at him if he became available. Who knows? Maybe come the end of the window we'll look to get him on loan. But
that's a good point, though. Actually, Dan. If Real Madrid are going to go for that, try and get that Mbappe thing sorted, then they're probably going to have to free up some money from somewhere. So do you think that there's any possibility that we are sort of monitoring that, and that could be the midfielder that we get him, albeit a year late?
Aggressively monitoring, that's a very Liverpool thing.
Yeah, we're great at that.
Yeah, it's like the old, and people's ears will burn here, the old Rafa saying, this is a club that likes to talk and talk, this is a club that likes to aggressively monitor. It wouldn't surprise me if we did, but even last summer there were holes because we ended up with that Arthur dipshit, and did he play a game for us apart from in the
12 minutes away at Napoli?
Yeah, there you go. He played 12 minutes at Napoli, and he played, I think it was at Rochdale, wasn't it? So that was a complete turkey of a signing. I would more lean towards us making a loan signing like that at the moment than someone like Tchouaméni, who would be brilliant. He might be available on the cut price transfer as well, because as you say, Chris, if you wave a shiny player under Real Madrid's eyes, they will probably do everything they can. There's also a player there by the name of Valverde, who, as you all know, I'm a big fan of, who I would be much happier to take off their hands should he be available. Yeah, I don't think any of us would argue against that. But to me, that doesn't fit the profile of player we want to sign. It feels to me like I don't think we know what we want, and I think we've just been caught so off guard by Henderson and Fabinho doing. And
how can we be off guard though? It took weeks for them deals to actually happen as well. It's not like they went within 3 days.
Exactly.
Weeks.
You're right, and that's what makes it so surprising. And I think as well, I understand that maybe we were just expecting the Saudi money to be phony. I get that, and there was also haggling over Henderson because they thought we were going to let our club captain walk away for nothing, even though he had 2 years left on his contract. How dare we want a transfer fee for our players? So there was all that going on, but as you just said, it was not an instant thing. It was not over and done within a few days. It was protracted. It was drawn out. Fabinho even came back to train with us, if you remember, because that deal looked like it might collapse. So what are we doing? I don't get it. I don't understand what we're trying to do or what we're driving towards. We will sign Lavia. I am pretty confident of that. We've gone up to 46 million again. Like we're getting this haggling thing now. We're getting close to what Southampton wants. At some point, that will give. And this is what Jules has been saying for the last week. If we pay 50 million for him, like Southampton have stuck to the guns all along, then that is also negligence, because we have had the whole window to come to this realisation and pay the money for Lavia. That would have get Lavia in, we could have a look at him, get him set up, get him used to the system, get him used to training, and Klopp is notoriously difficult to get used to in training. It took Robbo a while, it's not unheard of.
As well.
Fabinho, Ox, they weren't getting in the squads until October. So if we get this kid now, and as Brownie's already said, he looks like a really talented kid. If we get him in now and he's not ready to go, that is negligence to the extreme by the club. And I'm not blaming anyone. It's a collective. The club have failed here with this transfer. And we've got 3 weeks. Things could change. As it stands, I don't see us making the signings we need. I would argue that we need 2 midfielders of a defensive nature, and I think we need another centre half as well, personally. But I don't think we will get. We'll get Lavia, and I think that'll be a lot. And the club will say, well, we've spent 60, 50, 110. We've spent 145 million this summer with not much coming in, although we've got the Saudi money coming in, obviously. So that doesn't wash with me. We needed a big spend to get us back into the Champions League and reboot and refresh, which we all agreed that we needed. And I just feel like that whatever we do now, unless we go out and get centre-half A and Valverde or a player of that kind of calibre, it's not going to be a successful window. I like what we've done. I just feel like there's a lot more to do, and I don't think we're close to what we needed to do.
Just a quick point on that, though, about Tchouaméni, because I did see something the other day that we're looking at that in case the Mbappe thing comes and he becomes available. And that's all well and good, but that goes directly against what they said they wouldn't do. It's like you do not wait for players like that. When you've got needs, then you've got to address them. But that's what the mistake we made with Bellingham. Why would we be hanging on in case Tchouaméni becomes available? Now, if they know for a fact he's going to be available and they're keeping the powder dry and they can get the deal done, fair enough. But if you're just waiting around on the off chance that we'll pull the trigger if he suddenly becomes available, I just think that's a mistake. We're not in a position to be doing that. So I think I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, okay, good player, it'd be a really good sign.
Is he even a 6 though? I thought he was a bit more of an 8.
I think he's both,
like
really.
A traditional 8, from what I've seen of him.
Yeah, I think he could do it. But yeah, I don't know.
I think they're after a particular type of profile of player, though, aren't they? It's like a destroyer who's able to get around the pitch and distribute the ball. That looks to be what they're after.
It blows my mind that we've not gone for Tyler Adams. 20 million release clause, exact type of profile for that position. He'd be perfect. I know he's injured at the moment, but it's not stopping Chelsea from going for him, is it?
No. But he's injured quite a lot.
Yeah, that's the concern for me.
Is he, or has he just had that last injury that's ruled him out for a while? I don't know.
No, someone posted something on the forum about it the other day, and it is quite a lot. He's missed a lot of games, but you know how I feel about that. I really like the kid, and I think it'd be a really good signing for us if we were able to. I mean, the last thing we want is more injury-prone midfielders, really.
But we love a former Red Bull player, don't we? And we love a release clause. So I mean, he ticks those boxes.
Yeah. No negotiations there, Dave. We can just put in our bid. There's no need to try and haggle downwards by about.
We don't have to get IB for George on the case, do we? We can just meet the fucking release clause. Just cut him.
And that's all he's done so far. That's all he's done so far.
You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. For me, I think I've tried to play devil's advocate a little bit for the last half an hour or so and just sort of present the alternative case. But one thing I can't do is what the fuck is going on with that dickhead? He just looks like a fucking... I had him fucking pegged from, minute one. He just looked like a fucking fat slob. From a different era, from a fucking Harry Redknapp or Barry Fry era of football. He just looks like a fucking absolute knobhead. And, nothing has really happened so far to disprove that. We're just carrying him. He's a fucking joke. And Dan, you mentioned that Jurgen has maybe consolidated his power. If that's the case, perhaps it's too much power. Perhaps it was good to have that more balanced approach where he did sort of listen to the analytics guys and he listened to the sports science guys and he was on board with the strategy, and Michael Edwards had fucking power to decide what the strategy was going to be in terms of signing players, and Klopp said, I know this is the strategy and I operate under it. Now he's just appointing one of his mates who, like you say, is living in Ibiza, living it up, and has... What do we know that he has done so far? Like, both of the signings that we've made have been release clause signings that didn't require any negotiation whatsoever. One of them has already said, like, oh, as soon as I was linked with Liverpool, I was monitoring it because I wanted to come here. A lot of players say that, whether that's true or not. You know, McAllister was...
Julian Ward did that.
Yeah, McAllister was done before he came in, right?
Yeah,
so
Julian Ward stayed on after his leaving date to get that deal over the line.
I'm sick of the sight of him already, and I've only seen him about 10 times. He looks like a Roald Dahl character. He's a fucking joke. Like, I want one of those, like those guys that's sharply dressed, young, slicked back hair.
A Moneyball type.
Billy Bean.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want like a relic from
Bring the geeks
one of
back,
fucking Jurgen's mates who we haven't heard of. You know, he's just fucking bummed around the German. He's like our Ralph Rangnick, basically, isn't he?
He looks like a homicide detective who hasn't been to bed for about 4 days.
Stole my thoughts there. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. But he looks like a private detective who used to be like a homicide, but he was kicked out, and now he's divorced. He's got an alcohol problem. He stinks of fags, and like that's exactly when the first time I laid eyes on him, that's what I thought of. I was like, oh no, this doesn't seem right.
If I lived in Ibiza, I wouldn't go to sleep for 4 days either.
Yeah.
What's he doing in Ibiza anyway? He's a fucking 55-year-old man. Like, what questions does that raise? Him just dossing about in Ibiza for the whole summer. Is he clubbing it or what?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
As someone with who has long had an ambition to move to Mallorca, I think I can understand why he lives in Ibiza, but I'm not too sure why he's flying to Liverpool, because he's not doing much negotiating from what we can tell.
He was on the phone last night, apparently. Spotted,
oh yeah, he was spotted. He was spotted on the vaping at half time on Deepdale. Someone went out of the way to mention that. Yes, our new director of football is working very hard. He's come all the way to Preston.
Pizza.
No, he's probably talking to the pool cleaner, wasn't he? Make sure that's all right for when I get back.
He's not a dirty vapist, is he?
Yeah.
That just lowers my opinion of him even more. Like, is there anything weaker?
So's Klopp.
Is he?
Yeah.
I thought Klopp was on the fags.
He's trying to cut them out, though, isn't he?
Okay. For me, like, if I was going to be weak enough to be addicted to nicotine, I'd be on the fags, because the vaping is, like, the lamest thing that anybody's ever done in the history of the world. Like, I had a pretty low opinion of Big Jorg anyway, but this just, like, raises it to a whole another level.
Yeah, scratch what I said about him being, like, a private eye. You wouldn't get no, like, renegade private eye vaping. Just...
No way. There's no way, like, Vin Mazakian from The Sopranos. Like, he wouldn't be on those pussy sticks, that's for sure. No fucking chance.
Pussy stick.
I'm just, like, directing my entire, like, anger. My entire anger at him. Fuck him anyway. And if you're listening. Alright, okay. So, where are we? No, I'm lost now. You guys have got to help me out for a change. I've done me big rant.
Okay, I think we've covered all, like, the transfer situation. I think we need to talk about, like, the tactical setup. I've watched a fair bit of pre-season. I haven't watched every minute of every game, but I've tried to catch up on bits I've missed. The most alarming thing for me, and Klopp keeps talking about it after games, is just one ball over the top and teams are just running through against us. Yeah. And we saw that loads last season, and then we changed the system and we were much better at a lot of other things, but I still felt like we were vulnerable to just that one ball in behind, and then all of a sudden you're relying on Alisson to bail you out. And it's been happening in pre-season as well. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. The first is that it's pre-season, so one, you've got tired legs, and two, they're not going to play at the exact intensity that they would in a game that actually means something. And you can argue that without that intensity, that style is always going to cause us problems. We're always going to be a little bit vulnerable to that if the press is a bit off. But the goal, like last night, that wasn't anything to do with the press. Like, the press actually, like me and Brownie were talking about this today, like the press was pretty good in that game. But sometimes you're forcing the team to just hoof the ball because, like, you know, you're pressing them, they're panicking. The ball comes to a player, he knows he's getting closed down. So sometimes they'll just knock it over the top or just knock one round the corner. And you're wanting them to do that. But the problem is they're doing that and they're getting in behind. And it's like, well, people say it's like, Carragher's always saying it. Lawrenson was saying it the other night as well. They say, like, they talk about like the defenders have got to drop off. And then people will go mad and say, no, that's not how we play. We hold the line, we catch them offside. There's got to be like a happy medium. There's sometimes when, like, if there's a runner coming from the other half of the field, you're not catching him offside and you've got to drop in and cover that run. And a lot of the time we don't do it. We're just stood there letting runners go. And you're not, no matter how quick you are, you're not going to catch them when they've got that run on goal. And Klopp keeps talking about it and saying we're vulnerable to like the ball between like the centre-back and the right-back. And it's not just about Trent or Konate either, because the same thing happens in the Bayern Munich game when it was Gomez and I think it was Matip. Same thing happened. Like that ball in behind was just undoing us every time. And like, surely it can't be that difficult to stop that, because it's such a basic thing that like even shit teams can do that. Sometimes like you play against a really good team and they'll score a goal against you, and you'll be like, you know what? I mean, what are you supposed to do to stop that? It's just ridiculously good. But when it's just like a ball over the top and someone running through, it's like, come on, you should be able to deal with that, but we can't.
That's the frustrating thing for me. Like, now, you have to preface anything you say about pre-season with it's pre-season. You can't make definitive judgments. All you can do is kind of have a little look and get clues about the style and new players that come in.
All true, but it was happening in competitive games at the end of last season as well.
I agree, I'm getting to that. And the problem there is, like from what you're saying, even against really shit teams a couple of games ago in pre-season, they were just getting in so easily. And then we get the ball and we're having to play all this intricate football to try and create a chance, because they're obviously camped on the edge of their own box, closing the spaces as you'd expect. It's just how frustrating is it when you're banging away trying to create a chance and the other team just goes bang one ball and then they're in, and suddenly you're relying on Alisson. That's like a massive worry for me. Let's see whether that happens, when we get the real stuff going, but that's not even that hard to plan for, is it? I touched on it when I spoke earlier. I mean, from an attacking sense, like if you're coming up against Liverpool, you're just going to hammer that space where Trent is, because you know that you're going to actually get something good coming from it. I think that the interesting point for me when I think about our tactical setup, and you mentioned Matip there, that Bayern game showed that you can't rely on him to be covering Trent's space. It needs to be Konate, because he's the one who's got the pace. He's got more chance of shutting it down. What happens if Konate gets injured and we know that he's injury prone? What happens then? What happens if Trent gets injured? Is fucking Gomez going to be an inverted fullback? I don't think so. So what are we going to do then? Do we go back to the 4-3-3? What's the plan B?
That's another big question. I know it is, because you've had Costas playing there, like in the pre-season games. When Trent goes off, we've had Gomez playing like right back.
Connor Bradley.
Well, Connor Bradley got injured, didn't he? So like Gomez has played the last couple of games, but Costas is like been playing as like the inverted fullback, and like, well, that's no solution. So it's a valid question. What happens if Trent's not available? I mean, this whole system is like, to me, it's 100%. It's about let's get Trent out, like, nullify his weaknesses and let's get him on the ball, and like, he's our best player. Let's put him somewhere where he can have the most influence. So we've changed our entire setup. Basically, to me, it's because we've done it for Trent. What happens, like, if, God forbid, Trent gets a bad injury and he's out for like a few months? What do we do then? Do we go back to, like the old 4-3-3? I mean, I just feel like there's so many questions tactically about what we're going to do this season, and it is a concern.
Do you think they have the answers?
No, I think they're just hoping for the best, really. That hope Trent stays fit and just build the team around Trent. But if you take Trent out, nobody else can do it. They can do it to some extent in terms of you've got an extra body in the midfield, but no one's going to do what Trent does, because there's not another player in the country that can do what Trent does. So you can't really go out and sign like a backup for Trent, someone to do what Trent does, because it's not realistic to do that, is it?
Why have they not just moved Trent into midfield and then gone 4-2-3-1? Because when you look at it, he's sitting in there like it's a double pivot in it. So if you're 4-2-3-1, you play him in there like permanently and go and get a right back.
It's the new fad though, isn't it? Like the City and Arsenal both play that way with the inverted fullback, I think Bayern Munich have done it in the past as well. This is
feels like we're maybe a little bit late to it though. Do you know what I mean? We're copying them, and it's kind of like they're going to move on from that, and then what are we going to do?
Yeah. No, it does feel a little bit like that.
In terms of the Brownie, in terms of the tactical setup, like for years we've had this very, very functional midfield setup with, say, if you pick that peak midfield of Wijnaldum, Henderson, and Fabinho, that was very functional and did a job for the team. So Trent and Robert could get forward, and the forwards could do those things as well. Like one of the things I am looking forward to this season is we've recruited 2 players who obviously add a completely different dimension to that. They're creative footballers who can do damage in the final third as well. Not only from a scoring goals perspective, but also from dead ball perspective, also from through balls and assists perspective. Like we've got Gakpo, who showed in spells during that second half of the season how he can be an excellent replacement for Bobby, intelligent, smart footballer. Like I think there are certain things I'm looking forward to this year that could bring us on to a new level in terms of our attacking play.
Yeah, that's definitely the kind of bright spark. I think we're going to score shitloads of goals. We're probably going to see a situation where we go back a little bit to the pre-Alisson, pre-Fabinho, pre-Verge days, even though we'll have similar players now. I think it's going to be, we're just going to try to outscore opponents. We're going to have to, based on what we've spoken about with the concerns defensively. The 2 midfielders I'm excited about. I think McAllister, to me, already just looks like a top player. He's a kind of player that I love watching. He's busy, gets on the ball, puts himself about, picks a pass. He's dangerous in the final third. I think Szoboszlai is an interesting one because the bits I've watched of him, he seems to float about, doesn't really get involved in the build-up play a lot, but as soon as the ball's around the edge of the box, he comes alive. I can see him getting assists, I can see him getting goals. I think his set-piece delivery is really good. The front 3 for me in general look sharp, especially Diaz. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing last night, he looks ready to go. I know, Dave, you absolutely love Diaz, don't you? I've got more kind of question marks about the final end product with him, but I'm expecting a good season from him. I think
that'll come.
Mo's going to do well. The question mark for me would be central striker.
My boy.
I don't know, because he's been on the bench the last couple of friendlies, hasn't he? And
I don't think he's going to start Sunday.
I don't think he's going to start, and I was quite bullish the other week with you, saying I think he's getting 25 to 30 goals, but he needs to be on the pitch, doesn't he, to do it? I do think he'll score goals, but he looks like he's behind Jota and possibly even Gakpo. He might even be third choice at this point.
Klopp said again the other day, though, about defending as the ticket into the team. He made that point again. Yeah. And you think, I mean, Darwin scored he scored 4 goals in 1.5 games. And then he's come on in the last couple, he's played half an hour or something, didn't he? But he was doing well, and then he wasn't starting, and Klopp said that about defending, so you think, okay, so it's to do with that still. The pressing. Obviously Jota's really good at that. So it's going to take a lot for Darwin to be able to match Jota with the pressing, because that's just something that's come natural to Jota. He's really good at it. So I mean, Gakpo in midfield again. I mean, that's again he played in midfield the other night, and that's a bit of a red flag again to me, where it's okay, this is because we haven't signed a 6.
Yeah, right.
So McAllister has to come back, and now Gakpo's got to come back. So you fucked up your forward line
that's
and your attacking midfield, all because you didn't address that.
Yeah, that's that's the problem there.
But Dave, we were talking towards the back end of last season about ways to get Gakpo into the team.
Yeah.
And that is conceivably a way that we can do it with his sort of game intelligence and just his ability to link up the play with other people. I don't think that's necessarily the worst idea in the world, especially in games in Anfield.
If he can do it.
If he can do it, but I suppose we'll have to wait and see, right? Yeah. I mean, Dan, for the longest time, we had this settled forward line of Mane, Firmino and Salah, and obviously that's 2 of them have gone. One of them is still a mainstay, but we've got 4 other players who can fulfill those roles now. Am I right in saying all 4 of them are left-footed as well? So none of them can fill in for Mo, really.
Right-footed.
So, sorry?
Right-footed.
They're all right-footed?
Yeah, they're all right-footed. They all play on the left, but they're all right-footed.
Okay.
Diaz, Darwin. Jota's kind of two-footed really, but I think right is strongest. And
Right,
Gakpo,
fair enough.
they're all right-footed.
So what's...
Are you
so
watching
Dan,
games in the mirror or something?
what I meant to say is that they tend to operate on the left.
Yeah.
Dan, what's the front three that you're going with for Chelsea on Sunday?
I think you have to start Jota. I think he's looks quite sharp in pre-season, and as well he finished last season quite strongly as well. If you know, the last season feels like a distant nightmare, but if you remember him finishing the season quite strongly, so I think he's earned his right to start. I would say Diaz has looked really electric in pre-season as well, and I think he is a really, really good player. I think we're a much better team when he's in it. I'm a big fan of him, possibly one of the biggest in our WhatsApp group, to be honest. But he is standing out to me, and obviously it's Mo Salah. He's going to start, so probably Diaz, Jota, and Salah for me. I would say, but then again, you know, like, as Dave said, Darwin looked good in pre-season, and I'm a big Cody Gakpo fan. So they're unlucky to be missing out, but I don't want to see Cody Gakpo at the top of a diamond away at Stamford Bridge. And if we do, as Brownie's already said, it's because we've screwed up our transfers, and that would be not acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Dave, I think I was talking to you the other day, and you suggested the same thing for that starting front three. Is that where you go along with as well, Brownie, or would you prefer to see Darwin or Gakpo in that starting 11?
I'd actually go with Darwin. Well, actually, if we had a 6 who was playing, and then we could have Szoboszlai and McAllister as the two, you know, number 10s in the box midfield, then I would start Darwin, because I really think those two are going to be massive for him. The fact that McAllister is going to be playing as a 6, so he's not going to be in that position, and I probably would go with Jota. But as soon as we get a 6 in, you know, whether it's Lavia or Thiago or Steph come into the team, then I'm putting Darwin up front with those two behind him, because I just think he's going to feed off them massively.
Mm-hmm. And none of you guys would be looking to find a way to get Gakpo into that front three, because I think he was our most sort of like effective attacker towards the back end of last season.
It's tricky because it depends what you're looking for. I mean,
I'd play him through the middle. Especially with those two lads who can get beyond. Well, Szoboszlai especially has shown he can get beyond the front players a bit and get into the box and that.
It depends what you want though. If you want him, and it may come down to who we're playing against and what we want to do. He's going to drop off. Darwin's going to run in behind. So if you want someone, if you got like McAllister and Szoboszlai getting on the ball in those areas, do you really need Gakpo as well? Do you need 3 players around that area, or do you want 2 and then Darwin? Or Jota even, because Jota will run in behind as well. I do think it's going to be like horses for courses, but the only thing I'll say about Sunday, I wouldn't start Darwin on Sunday, and that goes against like everything that I've probably been saying for weeks, but I wouldn't now, because I think in a game like that, I really like the idea of him coming on for half an hour. You know, you have like another 3. I'd probably start Gakpo in the middle, Diaz on the left, Salah on the right, and then you've got Jota and Darwin to come on, because I just think with Darwin there's going to be certain games where it's like, on my signal, unleash hell and just send him on the last half an hour and just let him fucking cause mayhem up there. But sometimes when he's starting, depending on if we've not really got a foothold in the game, I think like we might be better off starting with Gakpo just to keep the ball. A game like that away at Chelsea, I think like, you know, keeping the ball and having some degree of control is going to be important. And then when the game gets stretched late on, I think he's perfect for a stretch game. So that's probably how I'd go on Sunday.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to Sunday in a little while. Do you want to go with some predictions for the season then?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go as things stand. Like things can change depending on signings we make. As things stand, I think the absolute best we can do is 3rd, and I think that's probably not going to happen. I think more likely to be 4th. We're definitely not finishing above City. I'll be surprised if we finished above Arsenal. I'm concerned about Chelsea because although it's a bit of a basket case there, like if they did get it right, they've got a good manager now. If they did get it right, I think they've got so much quality. if they got their act together, I think we'd have a problem with them. Not
Definitely.
really. Not
it could
really
be like an
worries
Aston
about-
Villa situation last season, but just on a higher sort
Yeah.
of plane, really.
As soon as they got a competent manager in, it totally transformed it. Yeah, so
Right.
that is a concern. I mean, thankfully, like that, and Kunku's got injured, so they're back to having like no centre forward, aren't they? Who's going to play up front? Have they got any other strikers? They probably signed 3 that I don't even know about. Sign that many
I
players.
can't keep up with them.
And if they haven't, they may well do it this week before the
Probably
game.
probably be
It's like,
Mbappe up front on Sunday.
we've got an injury. Let's go and spend like 100 million, get someone in. But no, I think like they're a total unknown quantity. We don't know what Chelsea's going to be, but if they do get it right, I think we've got a problem there. So we're looking at like, I'm not worried about United. I don't think they're much good, to be honest. I think the manager's overrated. I think they've been like looking to crown him as like, oh, you know, we've got a proper manager. No, I'm not buying him. Newcastle, I don't think they'll do anywhere near as well as they did last season either. So yeah, I think we'll probably finish 4th. But I think for us to do better than that, we only really need to. There's some like cheap wins that you can get, really. So like, stop being shit against teams in the bottom half. Like that's a massive thing. Look, last season, fucking the games where we couldn't even score against some of the dregs of the league. You know, that's got to stop. We've got to be able to find the back of the net against teams like fucking Forest and Everton, like shit teams like that. You've got to do that. You can't afford to be like struggling to score goals against them. You just can't. So sort that
That
out.
Villa game at the back end of last season as well was the one at Anfield where we needed the last minute Bobby one. That was a frustrating one on that front as well.
Yeah, it was. All I'd say there is like Villa were decent for the second half of the season, weren't they? So it's the really shit teams. You can't.
It's beating United 7-0 and then going and losing 1-0 to Bournemouth.
Yeah, that's what we've got to stop. Losing to Bournemouth, losing to fucking. We lost at Brentford, didn't we?
Forest away.
Forest, Leeds at home. You can't do that. You can't be getting beat by teams that are getting relegated. So put those teams to the sword, and straight away, if you're taking care of what you should be taking care of, top 4 should be a given, really, with the players that we've got. I just don't know if we can go higher than that. I mean, we spoke about the defending. You've got to cut that out. The one ball over the top and teams are scoring. So that's an easy win if you can stop doing that. I'd get Mo off pens as well. That's another thing I'd be doing. We've got McAllister now. You know, I think Szoboszlai can take pens as well. I wouldn't be letting Mo anywhere near penalties. I'd say no, enough's enough. So these things all should help us improve. And I don't see like us not finishing top 4, but it'll be a struggle to finish higher than 4th. As for who goes down, this is tricky because there's quite a few like teams who on paper look like they're going to be really shit. Luton, you'd think that they're going to be shit, but I don't know. I think they might have a bit about them. They might be a surprise package like Brentford a couple of years ago and Sheffield United when they came up. You know, I think they might be better than people give them credit for. I think Sheffield United will go straight back down. I think Wolves might be in trouble. And I'm definitely going with Everton. Obviously, there's no way I'm not going to pick Everton because they're worse than they were last year. They get worse every year, so eventually that's going to catch up with them, and there's not going to be 3 teams worse than them. So I'm going to go Everton. I'm going to go Sheffield United, and toss up between Wolves and Luton, and I'm gonna go Luton.
Okay, Dan.
I think Liverpool will finish 5th. I don't think we're good enough to get into the top 4 at the moment. I think that our problems in midfield, where we don't control the game enough, will come back to haunt us this season. I thought that was a big problem. One of the several big problems we had last season where we just didn't control the game, and I think you'll find that as the season goes on, we will be in roller coaster games where we win 4-3 against Jabronis because Jabronis will just keep hitting the ball over the top, which is our weakness, and scoring. So I think that the kind of game takes its toll on you in the end. And I don't know why it is, but Thursday, Sunday causes league difficulties unless we just completely rotate the team and I would be all for that. We should. We absolutely should. Because some of the teams we'll be playing in that group stage, we should be beating those with our under-19s teams, and that's not being disrespectful. It's just how it should be. So I would hope that won't be a factor, but it always could be. But I'm not feeling hugely confident. Of course, that could change, with a matter of a few signings. I don't know. Put a huge asterisk to that. At the moment, as it stands, I think we'll be fifth. I think we'll miss out on the top four, because I don't think we've taken enough strides forward, and we've let teams who we let get ahead of us last season go a bit further. Arsenal have got a lot stronger, and I don't think we've matched them stride for stride. They were already a good team. I think they've become a better one. Declan Rice is an absolutely magnificent footballer.
Do you think the pressure's on them a bit this year, though, Dan? Like, people are going to see him coming this year, and if it doesn't go well for them out the gate, then things generally speaking went really well for Arsenal last season until that very, very last sort of couple of months of the season. They had super luck with injuries. I think that injury they had to Jesus was the only really thing that set them back. I'm not as bullish on them as everybody else is, to be honest. I think that they might struggle a little bit. That's
fair. I think they'll be in the top four, but if let's just say that they do have an off, they're not as strong as they were last season, Chelsea won't be as bad as they were last season. So that kind of cancels it out. I'm not saying that Chelsea will hit the heights that Arsenal did last season, but you get my point. It's another top four rival. So that's my concern, that other teams have got stronger, and we have, as Dave said, right at the top, our squad is probably weaker than it was last season. So for me at the moment it's fifth unless things change. In terms of the bottom, it's going to be quite tough down there, I reckon. So I would suggest that I think Luton and Sheffield United will go. I was thinking Wolves as well, but they've appointed Gary O'Neill today, because that Lopetegui wanted out pretty much as soon as he started. So obviously something's not right there, but
he was
he
selling
did a great
all his
job.
Players and not letting them buy anyone.
Gary O'Neill did a great job with Bournemouth, who were, in my opinion, bonkers to let him go, but they did. So I will say Sheffield United, Luton and Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will get sucked in, because I mean the new manager they've got might be the best thing since sliced bread, like the guy at Brighton. Odds are that won't be the case. I also think that
the guy at Brighton that kept Everton up, you mean? That guy.
Dan, move
Dan,
on.
what have you done?
Yeah, I'm not having this fucking slurping of De Zerbi. I'm not having it.
I do think that Burnley will struggle as well. I don't think they'll go down, but they will be bottom 5 or 6.
Totally forgot about them.
But they're spending, for Burnley standards, quite a big money, and they seem to have changed the team that Sean Dyche had for 5 or 6 years, where they didn't have any other players other than the starting 11.
Yeah, they're all at Everton now.
Yeah, no substitutions, no nothing, just Burnley starting 11 and Sean Dyche week in, week out. I also think Forest will be down there again. It's not really saying much. And I think Crystal Palace will struggle. Sorry, John, I know that won't go down very well, but they look to have
they lost Zaha now, haven't they? And the Hodgson effect might finally come to an end.
Mm.
Yeah, they've lost Zaha, and they don't have many good players. I do like Guehi, the centre half. I love Elise, the winger. I would, if he could play a little bit more centrally, I would be interested in him, in fact. But it looks like he's going to Chelsea or Man City if he goes anywhere, because what the Chelsea need but more players. So yeah. So my bottom 3, long story short, Chris, is Luton, Sheffield United, and Bournemouth.
Okay, nice. Brownie, go ahead.
Right, I'm going for 3rd. I wouldn't rule out 2nd. I think it depends what we do in the next few weeks. One of the reasons to say that is touching on what you said there, Chris, about Arsenal. If you think about this time last year, I think everyone was saying the same thing. It's going to be Liverpool and City again. It's going to be Liverpool and City again, and we saw what happened there. Everyone's saying it's going to be City, and the only team who can push them is Arsenal. So I've just got a little bit of a feeling that they're going to drop off a little bit. It's harder to back it up when you do that. They've had so many years in the wilderness, haven't they? Everyone's expecting they're just going to keep it going. I think they'll find it harder, so they'll possibly drop off a little bit. In terms of us, why I think we'll finish 3rd and possibly even 2nd, although I've got concerns about us defensively, we've already said about how many goals I think we're going to score, and I think we're going to do better with set pieces as well, because that new lad looks really good at set pieces. I think we were towards the top end of set piece goals anyway last year, so I can see us
top.
Yeah, so I can see us doing even better there, and that'll, to a degree, compensate for some of the goals that we let in the other end. So I think we'll actually do a little bit better than some people are thinking. The rest of the top four, I think Arsenal will get in the top four. City obviously will win the league. I don't see anyone challenging them. And fourth, take your pick. No idea.
Yeah.
Like, could be Chelsea or United, probably. Don't have any concerns about anyone else. But Newcastle is a funny one, isn't it? It's a similar thing with Arsenal, I think, with Newcastle. Hard one to know. They've got Champions League football to deal with, so that's going to be difficult for them to kind of compete on both fronts, I think. So yeah, that's top four. Bottom three, Bournemouth, Luton and Wolves for me. Bournemouth, I don't know anything about their manager. I would echo what Dan said about Gary O'Neill. That was ridiculous after what he did for them. Luton, I've saw a little bit of them.
But you're predicting Wolves will go down.
Yeah, Wolves will go, only because they're bringing them in, 2 or 3 days before the season starts. And
well, they came in at Bournemouth in October or whatever, whenever it was, after we beat them after we beat Bournemouth 9-0. So he's got more time than he had last year.
He was already there though, wasn't he? He was the assistant coach. He was the assistant manager or one of the coaches.
But they're losing like a load of players, and they're not able to replace them as well. So I think it's a general malaise across the whole of the club there, which is going to cost them, I think. I mean, to Dave's point, though, I think it was Dave who said that there's so many candidates, isn't it, to go down. When you look at it, you can make a case for almost half of the league.
I forgot about Bournemouth and Burnley. And Forest.
I think Burnley will be all right. Forest,
yeah, I think Burnley will be all right.
I wasn't thinking about Forest, and then as soon as Dan mentioned it, I thought, oh yeah, because they really struggled at times, didn't they? And I think they've lost a few players as well. So, but yeah, I'll go with Luton, Wolves, and Bournemouth, bottom three.
Okay.
Not
I'll
Everton,
start with
unfortunately.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They'll be a little bit more stable this year. Everton, I think they'll finish comfortably like 14th or 15th or something. They won't have any sort of. They won't go into April, I don't think, with threat of relegation. I think they'll be all right.
Have you seen the squad?
It doesn't matter. Deitch, though, like he'll just
Ashley
do
Young's
enough.
The big signing. Ashley Old. he's the big signing.
They'll be fine. I hate to do it to you on August the 8th, but they'll be fine. Like, just don't do it to yourself, please. Just once, just don't do it to yourself. Because I just hate seeing
myself
so
out there to be hurt again. I don't care.
Mate, you're worse than like an England football fan going into the World Cup thinking this is going to be our year. But for me, the bottom three, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, really. I think Burnley might be that team that has the good season and finishes in the top half. I think it's going to be Sheffield United, Luton, and I'm going to say Bournemouth. To me, that's the obvious three, without really trying to deviate from many. Like to try and be contrary. In terms of our position, I honestly think that we could finish anywhere from second to 6th or 7th. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult to predict. I do think that we can comfortably finish above Newcastle. We could comfortably finish above Man United. We could finish above Chelsea. If I had to put money on it, I would say we'll finish 4th, right? That'd be. But I honestly don't know where it's going. It could be a season where we kind of bounce back and show some balls and re-announce this second coming of a Jurgen Klopp Liverpool team, or it could be the fact that the transfer business will actually catch up with us and we can't overcome that. So, who knows? All I will say is last season we finished 5th, 4 points off the Champions League, having lost 9 games and drawn 10 and won 19. So we didn't win as many as we did win. I think we'll be better than we were last season for sure in terms of like the amount of points we get. And you don't have to be that good to get top 4. Really, you don't, like you said it for most of last season, Dave. You can be pretty shit. You can have major weaknesses, and you can limp into the top 4. So I think that there's a pretty good chance that we'll do that.
There's an important point
I
we haven't spoken about, Chris. Sorry to interrupt, only because
Go ahead, man.
I made a note in my head to mention it.
Are you going to say the fifth place thing?
Fifth place, yes. It's likely that it's going to be top 5 in it. It's just because a few of us have mentioned top 4, but there's a good chance that's actually going to be top 5 going into this season.
Yeah.
So it's an important point to note.
Yeah. And I think it's important as well to say that there's another possible avenue back into the European Cup for us as well. If we go and win that Europa League, which we should have a good showing in, really, and English clubs have traditionally sort of got to the semi-finals and the final of that tournament in the last few years. So there's no real reason why we can't go and do really, really well in that. And isn't the final in Dublin as well?
Yeah, it is.
I think, wouldn't that be a
I think
fucking
that the big
treat?
question, though, is Sevilla in it. Because if they are, then forget it. We're not winning it.
No, I think they're in the Champions League, but they
Until
might
they
drop
get knocked
into
out.
it. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they'll go out in the group stages deliberately. Just so they can win their trophy again.
We'll see them in
That's fair
February.
enough. Yeah, can't deny them that, really. So we've got some predictions for the other lads. Before I do that, I want to get just another one quickly from you guys. Dave, who's going to be our most important player this season?
Trent.
Brownie?
McAllister.
Dan?
Mo Salah.
Okay, nice. And will we win a trophy, Dave?
Yes. Probably the Europa League.
All right. Brownie?
Yes.
Care to say which one?
League Cup.
All right. Oh, man. Dan?
I think we'll win the Europa League because you can get to the quarterfinals of that without breaking a sweat, to be honest.
Okay. Nice. I'm going to say our most important player is Virgil. If he can come back and be anything like the imperious nature that he had in his first 4 or 5 years here, was it, I guess like 4 years?
Yeah.
4 years, then we'll go a long way to solving a lot of our problems. And I think we'll win the Europa League. So, we do have some predictions from the other lads. We've got John B, Paul, Jules, Stu, John G, and Terry McDonald. And so we'll play those now, and we'll be back in a sec.
So I think we'll finish top 4 next season, and maybe even top 2. For a few reasons, we can't be as bad as we were last season, and we still finished 5th. The area we need to really improve is away from home. We lost 8 times last season, so I'm sure we can do much better than that. It's going to be a big season at the back as well. Virgil needs a big one, especially as captain. Hopefully the new signings will hit the ground running too, and if they do, we have a great chance. Nunes needs to come to life as well. Give Mo a hand. Jota has looked really good in pre-season, so I think goals will be no problem. And no European football, no European Cup football could really help us. So I think we'll be top 4 with City, United and Arsenal, and I think Bournemouth, Luton and Sheffield United are candidates for the drop.
I think our season is going to be quite exciting. I think it's going to be lots of goals, but I think it's going to be a little bit mad as well. The number 6 issue is obviously a problem, and not convinced by the new system defensively. Top 4, City, inevitably again, I think. I'm going to go wildly optimistically, us 2nd, Arsenal 3rd, and the Manx 4th. I think Newcastle will slip away, and I think Chelsea are just still a basket case. Bottom 3, I think it's going to be Luton, Sheffield United, simply because those two, budget-wise, have got absolutely nothing, and Everton, because at some point it's going to happen. Although my head actually says Dyche is the best person to start to pull them away from all of that. But they're so mad they'll probably sack him by September. Those are my predictions for the season.
Top 4, Manchester City, Arsenal. It's a pick and 1 from 3 from Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United. I think Newcastle will probably fall out because I don't think everyone will be as bad as they were last year. I don't think Spurs are going to have enough about them to get into the top 4. Relegation, I would think that 2 of the 3 promoted sides will go down, likely Sheffield United and Luton, although Luton could be the Brentford, but I doubt it. I think Wolves are outside favourites to go down. They've had an awful off-season, and they're having to replace their manager the week of the new season. They've sold half their players, and you always hope for Everton to go down.
Now then, Reds, prediction time. So here are mine. City going to win the league again. I don't think anyone's catching them, cheating bastards. So, yeah, City going to win the league. I think second and third will be fought out between us and Arsenal. I think we're going to be bonkers this year, but I think we might be top scorers. I think you've probably got 4 players there that could all do 20 goals in the season. So, yeah, we'll probably be mad. I'd put us maybe second, Arsenal third, because they look a pretty serious side still. United probably squeezing in 4th, because Tottenham and Chelsea not really sure what they are. I'm not sure Villa are going to get there. Villa probably win the Europa Conference League. I would have thought that's pretty nailed on. Going down, I've got Luton, Sheffield United. Can't see any way that they're not the bottom 2. And probably going to be the Blues. It looks, unless they do some work, I've got Everton probably as the 3rd team to go down. Fancy us to win the Europa League as well. I think we're probably strong in that. We're probably going to be the strongest side in it, so I'd have us down for that. So there you go. That is exactly what's going to happen this season. So remortgage the house, sell the pets, sell the kids, put all the money on it, but obviously bet responsibly. Up the Reds.
As of right now, with the window still having 3 weeks or so left, I'm probably expecting no better than 4th place for Liverpool. Don't think we've strengthened anywhere near enough as what we were hoping and expecting to. So that is a bit of a worry. I think we'll be exciting. We'll score plenty of goals, but I do worry about the structure of the team defensively as well. I think we will have some kamikaze games, akin to maybe when Klopp first took over. Regarding the rest of the top 4, it's probably going to be City, Arsenal, probably United. I think we'll be in a scrap for 4th with maybe Chelsea. To go down, probably, Sheffield United are absolutely nailed on to go down, bottom by some distance. I think Luton will give it a good fish, but ultimately quality will tell. And I'm not going to choose Everton because, they're like cockroaches, could survive a nuclear war. It just won't happen. So I'm probably going to go Wolves for the last relegation place.
Right, so I don't really hold out much hope for us for next season, given that we've made a complete shambles of this rebuild we're meant to be having. I'm going to have us down as possibly 5th or 6th, fighting 5th and 6th out with Newcastle. Top 4, unfortunately, going to be City. Probably just like steamrolling in again. City top. Arsenal second. I think they've signed some good players, properly built on what they had last season, unlike some other teams. And then Chelsea and United probably finishing the top 4. I think Luton straight back down, Sheffield United to join them, and finally, hopefully, everything crossed, Everton. Please, God, let it be this season.
So, some interesting thoughts from the lads there. Dave, I noticed that nobody's picked us to win the league for the first time in 4 or 5 years, I guess, which is sobering in itself. But before we can talk about what we're going to achieve this season, we're going to Stamford Bridge on Sunday for the first game of the season. On paper, it might be nice to get them early before Pochettino really gets to get them in any rhythm or anything. But by the same token, if you tell us historically that you're going to start the season with an away game at Stamford Bridge, it's not really ideal.
No, I'm still in shock, to be honest, that Paul didn't tip us to win the league. But no, we've had this conversation like in the chat a few times. Like Stu keeps saying it's the best time to play Chelsea and all that, and I said to him today, I said, well, yeah, but there's probably like a Chelsea group chat where they're saying, this is the best time to be playing Liverpool before like we actually get at the rest of our signings in, assuming we are going to get some in. And we're leaking goals all over the place in pre-season. So, yeah, anything could happen on Sunday. I just think 2 teams who are not the finished article. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I just got to hope that we take more chances than they do, because they are going to create chances. There's no way we're going there and keeping it tight. I just don't think we've got that in us. I think most of this season is going to be a case of us scoring more. But that's how we're going to win games. It's like, well, we're just going to have to outscore you. And we do have the firepower to do that, which... That's if Chelsea's lacking anywhere, really, it's goal scorers, isn't it? Whereas we've got them all over the place. We've got 5 forwards in form. I mean, I tell you what, we haven't even mentioned another forward. We've not even mentioned him yet, and he's been fucking electric in pre-season. Ben Doak. Mm-hmm. I mean, that kid he's something else. He's gonna be absolutely sensational. And I think he'll play more this season than maybe people expect him to.
Is he Mo's backup now then?
I think he is Mo's backup. I think he'll play the Europa League games, because we want to give Mo the night off. I think, play him. He looks good enough. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you play him? He looks absolutely
He's got an unbelievable knack of being able to just walk past seasoned, experienced players, hasn't he? That's and the thing I like about him is the game's become pretty boring and predictable as time's gone on, in terms of there's all these patterns of play, and it's all about probing, and that kind of play is almost like a dying breed, aren't they? Where you just give them the ball and you say, right, go on, run at him, and it just causes mayhem.
As soon as he gets the ball, everyone's like, okay, what's he going to do? You're on the edge of your seat, wondering what he's going to do.
And defenders aren't used to people running at them. How many times do you see even the best players get the ball and just lay it off? He doesn't lay it off. He gets it. He isolates you and he just attacks you.
And if he lays it off, it's because he wants a 1-2 and he wants to run in behind anyway.
Back, and it's that pace over 2 or 3 yards in it, which is frightening for any defender.
Low centre of gravity.
Against, they hate that.
Quick over a few yards. And the other thing that he does, and I've not really noticed it as much until recently, and it's every time he's dribbling now, he uses his left foot to dribble. He's right-footed, but when he's dribbling, he mostly uses his left foot, and I think that just bamboozles defenders, because it's not something that's typical of somebody who's playing on the right-footed player, and he's using his left foot, and I think that maybe gives him that little half a yard, which is he just goes past people. They're not getting near him.
You can go either way though, can't you? That's the problem as a defender. A lot of the wingers you come up against, you know what the strong side is, so you'll force them onto the weak side. But with him, if you do that, he'll just run away from you. So it's really difficult to defend against when someone gets you, because the moment you're caught square, he can just go either side, and then you're screwed. So could be a breakout season for
and
him.
I think we're going to see a lot of 10-minute cameos from him.
Yeah,
because I think he'll be on the bench more often than not, and I do think it's one of them where if the game's going well, you bring him Mo off, give him a bit of a rest, and he's coming on and he's getting 10 minutes in games where we're dominating and hopefully a few goals up. But I also think you'd bring him on if you needed a goal. If you've got teams when there's those situations when you're playing a shit team and it's they've got the backs to the wall and they're frustrating you and it's 0-0 or we're getting beat 1-0, whatever. Just bringing somebody like him on who just does something completely different, unpredictable, not what anyone wants to face. I think he'll play a big part. Not on Sunday. I'm not expecting him to be involved too much on Sunday, but I do think he's going to have a big part to play this season.
I mean, for me, Dave, I think you've spent as much time watching Liverpool youth football as anybody out there, really. The years we spent at the academy watching players, the under-16s and the under-18s when it was that team. But I have one major question about Ben Doak, which perhaps you can address. Really, is can he play 6?
Unfortunately, no.
Damn it! No, but seriously though, can he? In terms of the prospects that you've seen down the years, how highly do you rate him compared to some of the ones that have made it and some of the ones that we were quite high on that actually were nowhere near when it came down to it?
I'd put him second only to Michael Owen. Michael Owen was fucking light years ahead of any youth player I've ever seen. He was just unbelievable. But I'm not going back to Gerrard because I didn't really see that much of Gerrard because he was injured for a lot of the time when he was a kid. He just kind of went from the under-16s, few reserve games, and then he was in the first team. So I'm not really counting Gerrard, but from Owen onwards, I haven't seen anybody better than Ben Doak. He's better than Raheem Sterling at that age.
Okay.
not miles better than him. I'm not saying he's blowing him away or anything. You know, Sterling was like really good. You could tell he was going to make it. I think Ben Doak's a little bit better than Sterling, mainly because he can shoot. Sterling's never been able to shoot his little powder puff shots. Like, no, I think he is that good. He's special. He really is.
That is one point though about where you've mentioned about shooting.
He's got to score
more
more goals.
It's all going to come down to his end product, and that's what you get judged on there. I say Woody. It's not Woody. Is he still 17?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't expect him to come in and just suddenly master the art of creating chances. You know what I mean? It's a really difficult thing to do. That comes with time and maturity and minutes on the pitch. I think we're going to probably see loads of examples where he skins players for fun, and then you're just like, God, if he just picked that pass out, you know, that kind of thing. But he needs games, basically, doesn't he? This is going to be the season where he gets some minutes and then he starts to develop that part of his game.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, Darmstadt definitely couldn't cope with him last night.
He just took the piss, didn't he?
When he came on, the left back was repeatedly sent to Argos.
Mm-hmm.
He was all over the place. He didn't get near him.
I was going to ask you what that looked like in the ground, actually, Dan, because it's a bit different sometimes, isn't it, when you're
He's
in the
electric
stadium versus the telly.
Yeah, he is electric. He is, and we spoke about this. So confident, nothing phases him. He's just like, give me the ball. He's running into channels. He's not afraid to take anyone on. And he was squaring that left back up so many times. I mean, and Darmstadt weren't great, let's be honest, but they'd made changes at that point as well. But wow, he ran them ragged, and it was great to watch. It was great entertainment. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to see more of it in competitive games. Certainly, FC Dog and Duck and Pig and Whistle RC or whoever we draw in the Europa League are in for some nasty nights off him. And what an option he would be, in all seriousness. I'm being disrespectful to the Europa League as usual, but in all seriousness, what an option he could be to play on the break in a tight game late on in the league. And
perhaps it's good, long term that we are in this in that competition this year, because it will give us the opportunity to give players games and to move them along at a slightly faster pace than we might have done. But speaking of being electric, and having an electric summer, I heard you took a fifer in the cricket this summer, so congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately it did count in the end. The game didn't count because it was rained off, but the figures existed. So yes, 5 for 5 off 5.
Nice.
All right, beautiful.
There's one thing I want to mention, Chris, just before we wrap up. What do we all think about this new injury time edict? Personally, if it roots out the likes of Crystal Palace and Burnley and Everton from wasting 25 minutes of a 90-minute match, I'm all for it, but it's going to cause some real problems with people getting out of the ground and whatnot, because some of these games are going to go 100 minutes.
Brownie, do you want to take that one?
I think it's bollocks, to be totally honest with you. Don't get me wrong, anything we can do to weed out time wasting, then sound, yeah, but I don't think this is the way to do it. The reason I don't like it is we get to the start of seasons every year and they come up with new fucking rules, don't they? And new things that they're going to focus on. And how long did they last? Can you remember last year? Oh, yeah, we're going to let the game flow more now, so we're not going to give fouls for those little things. We'll let it go. And they did that, didn't they, for about 2 or 3 months?
Well, they did it all season when it was Mo.
Well, yeah, that's true. But generally speaking, it stopped.
Yeah.
And we always go back to the Mascherano one, respect the referee and all that, and that lasted about 5 minutes.
Or the 6-second goalkeeper thing, and Mignolet was the only one who ever got penalised for it.
Bollocks, it's just a fucking fad, and I don't think it's the way to go about stamping out the time wasting.
No,
that should just
yellow
be yellow
cards.
Yellow cards and red cards.
It ignores the big issue. It ignores the major issue. Like the fact that, I think Paul always says this, is that you can play as many minutes as you want, but it's not going to discourage time wasting. It's because it's all about breaking up the flow of the game. And if teams can continue to do that, they'll happily play for 110 minutes.
Yeah.
Because they can just keep doing it for that entire time, and teams can't get momentum, and you're left in a situation where you have the same putrid, broken up, unsatisfactory experience from an entertainment point of view, from a neutral point of view.
It's funny,
it just goes on for longer.
Hey boys, do you remember that Villa game last season? I don't think we spoke about that, you know.
No.
About, like, the time
What happened in that? The funny thing about this is, like, one of the cliches you hear footy fans say is like, we could have played for 2 days and not scored. It's like, well, we're going to find out now.
Right, yeah. I think you need to start just giving that Martinez from Villa, though, just give him his yellow card in the tunnel just to save time.
Yeah, there you go.
Because if they're doing it properly, then he's going to be getting booked in like the first minute of every game.
Right. I just had like I had a mad flash forward to this time next year when that joke that Brownie just cracked is just like, it's a joke that it's something that Dave has been going on about for fucking months and months ad nauseum, like solidly, and everybody groans when they hear him start going on about it. It's like, oh no, what have you done? What have you done getting him started on that? Like, what's it going to be this year, Dave? Can you predict it for yourself?
Fish tanks.
I don't know, because I can't see into the future, but I'd say like the time wasting is going to be a big thing. Yeah. Because I just don't think the referees are going to... As you said, they're missing the point. Adding the time on is not really fixing the problem. It's just... All it's doing, right? Like, say they had like 12 minutes. Let's take the Villa game last season, because I didn't really get to talk about that much. But no, if we take that Villa game, let's say you added 15 minutes on to the end of that game. The only thing you're actually achieving is giving us 15 minutes more fucking misery of just watching them taking the piss. That's all it is. You're not, like, solving any problem. You're just making it even worse by making us watch it for an extra 15 minutes, because they were just going to carry on doing what they were doing. Because why wouldn't you? It's like they'll do that for an extra 15 minutes, an extra half an hour, whatever you want to do. That's what Villa are going to do, unless you deal with it by yellow carding the goalkeeper in the first half. As soon as he starts doing it, you warn him. When he does it again, it's a yellow card. And if he carries on doing it, then you send him off. You have the balls to actually do it. And no referees do it. That's why they always wait till like the 86th, 87th minute before they finally book goalkeepers who've been doing it for the entire game. The only reason they do that is to save themselves the situation where they might have to give them a second yellow if they do it early on.
Yeah.
And it's partly like, I'm saying it's the referees who got no balls. In fairness, it's probably because they're told that's how they've got to do it. And you've got fucking Howard Webb in charge now, so you know any notion that things might actually get better, no, forget that. Not while he's in charge. You know, next season, I think it's probably going to be more moaning about refs and time wasting and VAR fuck ups and all of that. It's just going to get worse because Howard Webb's running the show.
Yeah, and we've also got the thing to worry about with, you know, like it was exploited to the nth degree last year. And if you started clamping down on time wasting in other ways, you'd get that head injury finaglery where people just fucking take the piss on that as well. Like you bring in a rule that is needed for the player safety reasons that's been overlooked for decades and decades and decades, and the first reaction of the managers of the teams that are trying to waste time is just exploit it for like shitty little ends. So like it's difficult, you know. They can change the rules however they want. That people are going to find new ways to exploit them, and I just know that the solution isn't playing 110-minute fucking games. Like fuck that. Like,
Can I put forward a revolutionary solution to keep referees, officials, incompetent morons, managers, and players out of it?
Is this a Godfather solution, Dan?
It can be. Stop conceding the first goal. Stop conceding the first goal, because if you do that, you remove the time wasting them. Because I'm not going to call Villa bums, because they're not. They're a good team and they've got a very good manager who's well organised and knows what he's doing at this
Especially
level.
now they got rid of that bum of a manager who's now operating in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, yes. He who shall not be named. So Villa, you know, we'll just use Villa. No, let's just use Everton as an example, because their manager is very, very effective at time wasting. Don't concede first against Everton, and Everton's plan is, well, shit. You know, if we score early, their plan goes out the window because they can't time waste. It's not even about, like, obviously, under Lampard, the Merseyside derby at Anfield was ridiculous for Pickford time wasting.
Yeah.
And we'll never forget Alisson diving onto the floor in the 90th minute.
They weren't actually that bad last season, and I think part of that was because Newcastle was so bad that it made Everton seem like quite reasonable, because Newcastle was just fucking next level.
Carvalho picked that winner in the last minute. That never has before has a goal been so justified.
But what I was going to say, and Dan, you'll know more about this, is like, if you go about like the head injury situation where like they're stopping the game as soon as a player's holding his head. Well, in rugby, they just let the trainer come on, don't they? They don't stop the game. The trainer just runs on for a head injury. Maybe that's what you've got to do. It's like if a player's got a head injury, just let the physio run on straight away to deal with it and let the game carry on.
Yeah, it's don't get me wrong. The rule is exploited in rugby league as well, because you have players going off for a head injury assessment, which is basically a free substitution for, I think it's 5 minutes, and then if that player fails their head injury assessment, they are out for the rest of the game. I do think it is a plague on football, people going down clutching the head, but you can't go waving yellow cards around for it, if for time wasting, because if someone is genuinely hurt, and it's the boy who cried wolf. One of these days, someone is going to get a sparkle, and there'll be a delayed reaction to it, because everyone's thinking, oh, what's he done this time? Why is he rolling around? He's been rolling around for the last 20 minutes. So it's a huge balancing act. But you're right, rugby does have things in place. It also punishes people who feign injury by means of a green card, which means if you get a green card, you've
Make them go and live in America.
Pardon?
Make them go and live in America. Is that what
well, yeah, the punishment must be more severe than go and live in America. Alternatively, they have to go off the field for 2 minutes, so you're down to 12 men for 2 minutes.
Fuck, why wasn't I given that option?
I was going to say, how much play acting did you have to do, Chris, to get your green?
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you do?
Jesus Christ, man. If I'd have known that there was the option to just like stay away from Anfield for 2 minutes, I would have just done that instead. No, never mind. I'm very happy here. So, coming into the game on Sunday, Dave, have you got a prediction for us? Are we going to win? Who's going to score? How's it going to play out? Are we going to play well?
I want to say that we're going to win, but I've just got this nagging feeling that we're going to lose like 3-2 or something like that. Stupid goals given away, not converting enough of our chances. It's just going to be a shootout and we'll be on the wrong end of it. But I don't know. I can't bring myself to tip us to lose first game of the season, even though that's what I'm thinking. So I'll go for us to shade it 3-2.
Okay. Barney?
I'm going for a draw. I was going to use the same word as Dave in terms of shootout. I think it's going to be a high-scoring draw. And I think most people will come away from it looking at both teams and just thinking that's two pretty flawed teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dan?
Got a bad feeling that we're going to lose. Pochettino is a very good manager. Our record against him is not too great. Obviously, European Cup final notwithstanding. So I don't know. Maybe a draw. Maybe a 1-1 draw. Actually, I'll err on the side of positivity, and I'll say it'll be a draw. But I don't think we'll win. I don't think we'll defend well enough for a win at the moment. But a draw, 1-1.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to go with some sort of high scoring draw that leaves us feeling better about it than worse about it. Just because I've been sort of like a little bit of a voice of positivity for a change in this podcast, apart from when it comes to Big Jorg and his vaping.
I was just going to say, you what?
Yeah. But yeah, like lads,
Big
we're getting ready for.
Big Jorg just spat his vape out listening to that.
I'd apologise, but I wouldn't mean it, so fuck him. So yeah, we're ready to start another season. This promises to be one of the most sort of unpredictable, uneventful, perhaps might even be enjoyable, going back to those early Klopp days of just that 5-4s and the 4-3s and just trying to outshoot teams and figuring out along the way. I kind of feel like the pressure's off us a little bit this year. Like sometimes I go into these seasons feeling, oh man, if you draw one of the first two games, then that's the league gone. Well, we're obviously not going to be feeling like that this year. So
yeah,
I'm prepared to just sort of like go into it, have some fun, enjoy it, enjoy doing the podcasts and everything. And as always, we really appreciate your support. I think this is the third year now we're going into it.
Yeah.
And the numbers continue to tick upwards in the right direction. So as long as you stick with us, we'll keep recording these podcasts after every game and after every sort of major event that happens with the club. Dave and the boys will be back on Sunday pretty soon after the game. But until then, we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Ooh, what was this? It was really good.